I would say it took about a good 3,000 years before all the classical feng shui school, and I'm trained as a classical feng shui master, was found out. And literally, feng shui is really a system based on the five elements, what they're using in medicine, Chinese medicine, in acupuncture, but it's also really um, a mathematical formula, to be honest. Yeah. So they really went deep into that every degree has a different outcome.
Welcome to the Awaken Magazine podcast, where we feature inspiring leaders who are helping our world awaken to love. I'm your host, David Trotter, and today I want to share with you a wonderful interview with Marie Diamond. She's a world-renowned feng shui master, law of attraction teacher, and author of Your Home is a Vision Board. Now, in this conversation, Marie is going to share with us a powerful story of a near-death experience as a young person and how that ultimately gave her a vision and a calling to impact over 500 million people around the globe, which she did as she starred in the global phenomena, The Secret. She also tells us all about feng shui and gives us some very practical tips, including me, which you may notice a plant in my office has changed based on what Marie shared with me in this interview. And I believe you'll get some practical tips about your home and life as well. And then she also shares 3 types of luck and how that impacts our life. You do not want to miss that part of our conversation. Hey, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the Awaken Magazine podcast. We release episodes every single week on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Click subscribe, rate and review the show. That's a way that you can help us spread the word about all the great content that we're putting out into the world. And share with a friend. Yeah, your friend is going to love this conversation. All right, let's jump into my interview with Marie Diamond. Well, Marie, thank you so much for taking time to hang with us today. It's great to be with you.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the Awakened Magazine podcast. I'm super thrilled.
Yeah, I want to hear your background, where you grew up, how you experienced spirituality or faith kind of as a young person, and then how did that morph into, let's say, an awakening to consciousness, mindfulness? Tell us about that.
Well, my background is I'm originally from Belgium, and so from a beautiful city called Bruges, very romantic space. And I grew up in a conservative Catholic family, and for me that was, my life, and I was very connected with God, with the divine. Church was a big thing for me. I loved being there. It was very interesting. For example, one of my brothers went into the convent. So that was like, very interesting experience. But what was really interesting for my family was that it was a priest that my mom was 5 months pregnant, and she was very much connected with a monastery that was where they went for the mass. And one of the priests that came from Sri Lanka for a sabbatical to stay in that monastery came to her and said, "I'm here to baptize your child." Now, my mom was 43 at that time. And so she was like, "I'm not pregnant." And he said, "Yeah, you must be, because I had a dream about you and I recognized you in the church." So he was a black man, right? And so it was very interesting. And my mom was like, "Okay, I'll go to the doctor." And she was 5 months pregnant. She had no idea. And so that was like the first beginning, was like, this priest baptized me, and a man from Sri Lanka, right? And he did it in his own language, but he also knew how to speak Sanskrit, like a version of Sanskrit. So he baptized me in Latin, in Sanskrit, and in French, because that was another language he knew. So it was a really interesting start of my journey. And another one priest was telling my father, who he mentored my father, said, "She will have a gift of seeing, but always know that she's very special. and that it's given by God, this gift to her. So don't worry about anything. So, as a child, I could see energy. I could see people's chakras. I could see people ready to pass on to the next level. And I would tell my parents, like, granddad is dying tomorrow. And they're like, yeah, the next day he had a heart attack. So, things like this, or people would come in, I would say, this person is not to trust, like very dark colors around them.
Mm.
And they would trust me because a priest had confirmed that. So, in a way, I was allowed to be very spiritual, and at the same time I was also very Catholic, right? So that was a very interesting upgrowing from that perspective, because they were really like, this is a divine gift she has, right? So for their perspective, it was not like she's strange, right? So I was allowed to say the things that I experienced. If I had an experience with an angel, I would tell my mom, and they were like, oh, that is so good. Like, anything I said, any experience, it was allowed, even if it was a conservative Catholic family, because the priest had approved it. Yeah. So that was my grace, I would say, at the beginning of my life. And then, as I was seeing energy, and had these connections, I really started receiving these visits. So when I was 7, I had this, um, appearance that happened, and that was actually from an ascended master, and he started teaching me meditations. Like, he would tell certain things I need to do, and I started really meditating when I was 7. Now, I had no idea who that person really was, but later on I understood more that other people were aware of him too. And then when I was 15, I kind of started closing off some of that energy, because, I was a young girl. And then I had a major accident. So I was run over by a truck and I was declared dead. So it was interesting. My mom was at home, and it was like literally a half a mile from our home, and she knew something had happened. Like, she was like to my dad, we need to get ready, something happened to Marie, let's get into the car, tell somebody will come and tell us. So a teacher from school came to tell her, like, Marie had an accident. So they rushed to the accident space, and they already put a fabric over me. That was like, she's gone.
What
And she
what
was
happened? You're just rushing over this, Marie. Like, I just got hit and I just died. Like, what? Tell us more. Like, were you walking, riding a bike in a car? Like,
Yeah,
fell off a building? What
I
happened?
was riding a bike, and like on the street, and a double truck hit me, and I was catapulted, like on all pebbles, and my whole face was ripped off, like all the skin was gone, and I had probably so much injuries that I got in coma. And it was interesting, when my mom then came to the ambulance, she started screaming, you need to revive her. And so they tried again, but at that time I was already hovering over my body. So I saw my mom in the ambulance, and I saw this cute ambulance guy with blonde hair and blue eyes, and I had this energy that I was like, looking down, like, oh my God, he's so cute, like 15-year-old teenager, right? And then I left that space, and I went to all these dimensions, to a space of light where there were like beings of light there. And they told me that I had to go back, because I was here to enlighten more than 500 million people. Now, I came back and out of coma a couple of days later, and they told me that I would have to have plastic surgery, that all the skin layers were taken off. And I said to my mom, you're not going to approve the surgery. I'm going to heal myself. And you have to understand, at 15, I had no idea you could do self healing. At that time, any healing would come from Jesus, right? Or the angels or saints or something, right? So, but I was very clear, and I was like, I'm having all this energy in my hands, and I started putting my hands on my face, and within 2 weeks later, I went back to school, and I had a complete renewed skin. So it was my first experience of there was energy in my body, right? And I still had a lot of health issues, because my memory was really bad after that. So, but I started opening up even more after that. So, like my clairvoyance opened up because I'd gone to the other side. So, my veil was very open. And um, at that moment, I started really thinking about I need to be really making a difference in the world. I didn't know what the word enlightenment meant. That's not talked about in a Catholic family, but I thought it was about making a difference. So I became very connected with the Catholic Church, doing as much help I could do for the church, um, supporting the priests, supporting the healing organizations or like the health organizations, local scouts, as much as I could do, right? Like being of service. And then at a certain moment, I felt like that is still very local. I need to think about millions. Now, at that moment, I have no idea what that meant. So I thought like if I could make a difference in the United Nations or the UNESCO or the European Union. So I actually started studying law. And because to be in as a diplomat, you need to be a lawyer in that time. So I actually became an international lawyer and I started working for the European government. But meanwhile, I was still meditating, I was still getting all these informations, all these experiences. Um, and then when I was almost 27, I had a huge awakening experience where some people would call an enlightenment experience. And that just, from that moment on, my mind and heart was completely different. I had so much love and compassion in my heart for everyone that, of course, I was still a lawyer. So I was just practicing all this as a lawyer,
What
to be
what
honest.
happened in that moment? What happened when you were 27?
Yeah, so it was very interesting. I was asked by somebody to go to a Tibetan sound healing. And so this man had also in his um, healing practice this huge gong. And he said to me, like, I never use really this gong because people are not ready for it. But when you hit this gong, there's like, it takes 15 minutes and then an om sound will appear from the song. But for 15 minutes, it will be quiet. He said, but I don't think you're ready for that. So he put all these Tibetan balls around me and started doing the sound healing. And for me, it was like, oh, I've done this before. Like, I was like, oh, I was so open to this energy, even if I had no experience of Tibetan background. But it was like, yeah, I know this. And then apparently he did hit the gong. And I suddenly hear this om sound, and I became the om sound. And I flipped again out of my body, and I went to all these dimensions of light. And then I went to the moment where there was nothing. It was like before I would call the Big Bang, before anything was created, whenever anything was just not present. There was the void, as we would call that. And then suddenly I hear again this om sound, and then I saw creation. And I saw the light being created, sound being created. I saw Milky Ways being created, but I became every one of them. I saw every star being created, every planet, every soul, the whole planet Earth being created, and I became everything. And then I came out of it, and I remember 2 hours later, apparently, I woke up and I was like, wow, that was interesting. I had no idea what that was, of course. And so I said to this man, I thought it was about 5 minutes because my time experience was completely different than the real time. And he said, no, you've been snoring for 2 hours, right? But I was gone completely. And he said, I couldn't touch your body. Your body was so highly vibrating, I couldn't even continue because something was happening. I could feel that. And then I remember reconnecting with my ascended master after that, that appeared again. And I asked him, what is this? He said, you're it. You're it. And I had no idea what that meant, right? It's only later on that I found out that other people have similar experiences and that they call that an enlightenment experience. But I just went back to work the next day, but I knew I was totally shifted, right? I just knew that my love and compassion, that non-judgmental state was so open for me. And within a few months, I started having people coming to me to ask me for support and healing out of the blue. People just would come to me. And then I was like, okay, probably that's the direction I need to go. And so at 31, I literally um, became, started a practice of healing. And I had no idea that other people were doing that. I was just following my inner guidance. So that was 31, and I became very big very quickly in my country. I had thousands of people coming to my classes. I was teaching meditation. But there was this one thing that was very interesting was that after when I was 15, I had asked my ascended master, why did I have to go to this experience? And he said, well, Marie, you have bad feng shui. So I had no idea what that meant at that time, but he gave me some basic principles and I changed my space around. And when I did that, I started feeling so much better. I was very bullied at school. Suddenly I had friends. Like I was like so much, I really was depressed if I look at it before I was 15. And suddenly I had so much joy. And so I started studying feng shui at 31 with a grandmaster in Malaysia. And I start seeing that a lot of people that really want to get to awakened state is that if their home is not on that level of energy, that it's very hard for them, even if they have an awakening happening, to sustain that awakening. Yeah. And so that feng shui, who's an energy system that is created in China, that they really understood not just how to work with the body, with acupuncture, qigong, tai chi, but also they knew how to work with raising the vibration of a space to help people to stay in that awakened state or to reach awakeness, being an awakened state. And so for me, that was really interesting. So I started implementing that for my spiritual students. But when I was 38, I thought, like, you know what, I'm never going to reach millions of people if I stay in Belgium. Right? So that is before internet and social media. So I had no idea how to do that and moving to the United States. So I immigrated and I started right away having a lot of people that were attracted to come and see me. Like I did not do any marketing. It was just like all these things were just referrals. And before I knew it, I was the spiritual mentor of people like Jack Canfield, Bob Proctor, Marion Williamson, John Gray. So I started working with them because they were really looking for getting to the next level, right? And I was starting, mentoring them and supporting them. And that's how I ended up in the Transformation Leadership Council created by Jack Canfield. And even if I was totally unknown, I was already very known by the mentors, by the leaders, by the thought leaders, right? Because I was working with them, not really with the bigger public.
Hmm.
And both working with meditations and feng shui with them and guiding them when they felt stuck. And then, the film The Secret was filmed in one of these meetings. And so that is when the bigger public suddenly became aware of me as the only Western European in the movie, The Secret. And that's when, yeah, I would say my connection with the divine was guiding me to really reach more than 500 million people. So, and that has been continuing teaching people about spirituality, manifestation, feng shui, dowsing. So now I have more than 2 million online students, myself in my own field, and millions of people are aware of my existence through other platforms like The Secret, Mind Valley, that I've been part of. And it's always following that one thread. How can I be of service? Yeah. How can I? Um, and that's my request every morning. I said to the universe, show me how I can enlighten millions of people. Show me how. Right? That's the only request I have. And the second request I always ask the universe, uh, teach me and show me how can I love more. Yeah. So
Mm.
these are like the two guiding principles for me over this 30 years of experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a long story, but
Yeah, it's
yeah,
wonderful, wonderful. Marie, thank you so much for sharing that. This feels, I feel a kindred connection. As I was sharing with you before we started recording, I was a pastor and grew up in that Christian, conservative Christian household, and in that world, there is such a deep, ingrained emphasis in service. Right,
yeah,
that our lives are here to serve others, and
correct.
I have invested my entire adult life in service to others in a variety of different ways. And so I, so resonate with your heart of how you have lived your life. It is so beautiful. I loved reading in your book, your latest book, Your Home is a Vision Board.
Yes.
You talk about how in the midst of appearing in the secret, there was some difficulty in having it get out there, having it expand. I'd love to hear kind of the backstory of that, of how you helped Rhonda Byrne
Mhm.
get it out there a bit more.
Yeah. So it was very interesting when I was chosen to be one of the people in the secret. I mean, there was more than 70 people that were interviewed, and ultimately I was one of them because I put on my vision board in 2001 that I was going to be in a movie seen by millions of people to transform the world. Now, I had no idea what that meant at that time. It was just a download that I would do that one day. And so when I then connected with her, and we became very much friends, and so she was also ready to bring this movie out because it was first a movie before it was a book, to a channel in Australia. And then one day she called me and she said the channel has refused to air it because it's a little bit too beyond what they expected. And she's like, I don't know what to do. I have 6,000 DVDs, sorry, 3,000 DVDs that I invested in. I don't know what can I do now. I'm at the edge. Like, it feels like the secret is not working for me. So I said to her, what are the two things you really want? And she said, I want, first of all, to bring billions, joy to billions. That was her request. I said, okay. And I said, the second thing she said, I want people to get a DVD and to show it to their family and friends. And then more people would get the DVD, like get this ripple effect. And I said, oh, that's easy. And I said, let me come into your apartment because she was living in LA at that time. Let me come into your apartment and kind of see what we can do to support you. Right. So her feng shui was really off. And I asked her, okay, another thing you want to be in? She's like, oh, I want to be interviewed by Oprah. I said, okay, let's put an image of Oprah at the right place. Then I called some of the people that are in the secret, because half of the people in the secret were my clients. And I said to her, I'm going to ask them to do certain things in their feng shui to help you, right? So I did all this. And then I said, you have 3,000 copies. Why don't you start giving away your copies first? Be in that flow of generosity.
Mhm.
And so she sent 100 copies to the 24 people. She had 600 copies left. So I said to her, why don't we go to the streets of LA and Beverly Hills and start giving it away? Start looking at people like, do they need a secret? Yes, they do. We give them the DVD. And so she said, Marie, that's all my money. All my money is in these DVDs. And I said, do you trust the universe? Do you trust how it works? And she said, well, we'll find out, right? So within a month, what started happening is that people start seeing the DVD because all the people had given the DVD out to their students, to their clients. We gave it to the street. People start connecting with her company and her website again and start buying more DVDs because they were like, oh my God, this is so different. This is so amazing. And so they start buying to give away, right? And so over the years I've been traveling in like more than 40 countries to talk about The Secret and Law of Attraction. And when I ask them, where did you see the movie, or where, oh, I got the book, or I got the DVD from somebody, right? So we started this train of generosity. Yeah.
Mm.
And I said, you need to let God, let the universe work with it, right? And so this is actually, people always think there has been a huge marketing, um, uh, I would say, program or behind the secret, but actually it was the law of generosity that started creating all this outcome. Yeah.
Beautiful. How did your personal life and your service change having been in the secret?
Well, I have to be honest, I was not ready for this reaction at that point. I had barely a website, I had no team, right? I was just like, what is going on? But I trusted that, this would be unfolding, right? So I got a beautiful publisher that, did a home study course for me. I attracted the right people, right? That was the first thing. And of course it was interesting because you start going on the street or you go somewhere and people recognize you. And then for me it was like, oh, taking a moment at least to be with them. Yeah, because I always felt like, God, the universe brings me the people. I will take time for people, right? So I'm not just going to, I'm not going to suddenly become the star, right, of a movie. I'm just going to stay Marie that is here to enlighten people and take time to listen to them, to be with them. Like that being of service stays there. And so, of course, I started having a lot of people studying with me. Um, and I have to be honest, there was never a marketing behind it. I never
Mhm.
did that. I always felt like everything would come, to me, just focusing on what I want to do, what God was leading me to do, what the universe was bringing me. Yeah, and now, I'm a global best-selling author, known in 190 countries. It's very interesting. But for me, I never changed. It's just my heart expanded, right?
Mhm.
To open up to more people, right? And um, I mean, that's, I think, what people experience, people that know me for a long time. I'm still myself, I'm still me. Um, and I have a beautiful group of people that I attracted over the years that I've seen them grow and also awakening in their own field. And I've seen also the harmony and that happens in their family because they are practicing my work. I think that's one of the greatest things that I see people that sometimes have a hard time in their family and they now have harmony um, with their children, with their partner. I think that's one of the greatest, I would say, joys for my life. Yeah.
Yeah, so amazing. I'd love to talk about feng shui a bit because, in the United States, it is definitely does not seem very popular, you know? And so as you are having the opportunity to spread the word to people who don't necessarily practice feng shui or know about it, you mentioned a little bit about how you would define it. I would love for you just to tell us what it is and some basics,
Yeah.
and particularly if someone's listening today, I know you have online courses that we'll link to that can be very helpful for them. But if they were just to know a couple of basics that might help them in their household this week, what would you be able to share?
Well, first of all, feng shui is an energy system, right? So like I said, you can compare with acupuncture, but this time it's not about your body, but it's about the body around your body. So it's like your space where you live and sleep and work. Now, I think a lot of people do know about the energy of their space because they can go into a space in their home and they feel like, oh, it's so stagnant. I need to open the windows. I don't like the colors. Let me change the interior design of it. So I do think people have a sensitivity about the
Mhm,
energy and they're going to a restaurant. They're like, the food was great, but I'm never coming back. There's something off, right? And then you go to other places that the decor is not so great, but there's such a great vibe, right? So I do feel people have that energy. They just don't know there's an energy system behind it that you can direct that energy. Right. So when I started bringing feng shui forward, I really felt that I was part of my work is to really make this mainstream, right?
mhm,
So, like, I have a TV show on Tubi, who's a Fox streaming platform, talking about feng shui, right? That's very mainstream. So, I started teaching people to, first of all, become aware of the house and the space that they're living, sleeping, and working in. And I always called it, and based on the secret, we talk about that you make a vision board. But what if your home is a vision board? that everything that is surrounding you, a color, an image, plants, crystals, if you would place that in the right direction, that you would feel better. You would feel more like you. And so I ask people to do an audit, literally to go to their home. And I always say, think about if God, the universe, would come into your space. What is he or she saying or seeing, right? So let's say you ask yourself the question, you know, is this home who I am? Yeah. And the second question is this home who I want to be? Yeah. So these are just two simple questions, just going around. So let's say you're single and and you have all these images of single people hanging out, women that are by themselves, men that are by themselves, a plant that is very lonely, or all the things. And you're like, is this who I am? Yeah, I'm single, but is this who I want to be? No, I want to be in romance. I want to have a family. So by placing certain different images and certain different colors, but it could also be that you go to your workspace and you look at your workspace and everything that is there is still connected with an old job, for example, that you had. Yeah. Or it's cluttered. Like, is this who I want to be? A chaotic mind? Yeah. Something that is very poor is like the poverty mentality. Clutter is always showing poverty mentality. So, or can I hang something different, place different books, declutter the space? So is this more who I want to be? Yeah. So this is actually the two questions that I ask people to ask themselves. And then they can start very practically by their own workspace. And a lot of people work from home right now. So it could be that you use your dining room or you have a space that is designated for that. Now look around. Is that telling you who you want to be? Right? You can add books of leaders. You can put perhaps certificates you have. Perhaps you have awards. Perhaps you have products. Don't hide them. Just put them around you because your subconscious mind is reading that energy all the time. If you go to your bedroom, see what's hanging above your headboard. Is that romantically, or is that when you wake up, what's the first thing you see? Shoes and clothes on the ground? Is this going to be good for your health? Yeah. So ask yourself these questions. And then, some very practical steps that people can do is, first of all, and I'm going to give you that because you need to change something in your environment right now. And that is, you have a lot of spiky plants,
Okay.
right? So
Yeah.
when you have spiky plants, right, you actually are attacking and people will criticize you more. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So take that out of your screen, right?
Okay.
And actually, all the plants you have around you are like sharp edges. So in Feng Shui, it's all about flow and round and oval energy. And
Okay.
everything that is sharp is actually creating negative vibrations. Yeah.
Mm.
So take that out, put a plant like an orchid or something with round leaves, because right
Mm.
now, people and yourself are
Mhm.
getting stagnant all the time.
Mm.
So
Okay.
take that out. Yeah. So I've seen this in many people's podcasts, and then they say afterwards, "Oh my God, my podcast was so much better." So why don't you give that a try, right?
I'm on it.
On it. Okay. So, but it also can be that another thing that I say to people, based on your birthday, there is certain directions that are actually stronger for you. Yeah, where the wind, the chi, because feng shui is connect with chi, vitality, life force is stronger. And so
Mhm.
people can actually download my free Mary Diamond app. So they just go to App Store and Google Play Store and put in Mary Diamond, and they get a to put in their birthday and their birth gender, and they get a calculation. It's not numerology, it's a different calculation than typical numerology. And you will get a number between 1 and 9. And then based on that number, there are four directions that are strong for you. So right now, and you will see there's a diamond compass. So this is my compass. And
Nice.
so my success direction is southwest. Yeah. So for
Okay.
my whole life, southwest is the strongest. Now, interesting, I moved to the southwest of the United States for
Yeah.
a reason, right? I didn't go to the East Coast. But what people then do, they take this app and then they hold it in the center of the space. And it shows success, relationship, health, and wisdom. So
Mm,
there are four directions that are empty. That means these directions do not relate with you. There's not a high vibration there. Your
mhm,
awakened state cannot open up there.
mm,
But there are four directions that when you face that direction, when you activate that direction, your awakened state opens up more. So
mm.
for me, my success direction is actually behind me. I don't see it, but it's still present and it's activated. Yeah, I put my books there. I put my goals there. I would put my vision board there. I would put my contracts there. So it's always decluttered because that area is aligning with between me, spirit, my body,
Mhm,
and the environment. So that
mm.
is all explained in Your Home is a Vision Board, the new book. And so this is how you can use acupuncture based on your birthday for your home.
I love that. That's a great visual. Acupuncture for your life, your energy, your home. That's great. In your home is a vision board. You describe three types of luck.
Yeah,
And I found that very interesting. Would you mind just walking us through those three types real quick?
of course. So it's one of the things that my grandmaster shared with me. One of his first things that he said there are three kinds of luck. And so, if people want to manifest, if they want to follow their purpose, he said, that most of the people in the self help world, they're focusing on their mindset. Yeah. So, to have a positive mindset. He said, in the spiritual and religious world, they're focusing very much on their connection with God and spirit. And he said, when you do that, you are connected with your spiritual luck. He says, like, when you are born, we all have a plan, a divine plan, right? Our soul comes in and is here to make a difference, is here to go to certain lessons. Some people call that destiny or karma or dharma. You are, God is leading you on a path somehow, right? When you're born. And so that is responsible for about 33.3%, he said. It's not 100%. Not karma is not everything, right? And you can make some decisions that are different. Like I could have stayed in Belgium and still do my work, right? But because I made a decision to go to America, or is that my destiny? We don't know that, right? So, but the whole point is there are some decisions you're making based on that, and you have some talents that you received from the divine, right? So I have a talent to teach. I don't have a talent to sing, right? So, but I unfolding that talent, right, is doing something with your talent, not burying your talent. Remember the Bible
Mhm, of
story about
course. Yes.
talents, right? So it's like do something with that talent, right? And that is your heavenly luck or spiritual luck. The second part is your human luck. Okay, what do you do? What do you do for yourself? Having a better mindset, a better behavior, be a good human being, be of service, take actions. So the whole like, what do you do with that talent from a human perspective? Unfolding and expanding your knowledge, reaching and connect with the right people, having the right people in your environment. That is all your human luck. Of course, you need to have some discipline in it. You have to do it every day,
Mhm,
right? It's like, it's not just you can sit and wait for it to happen, right? So you need to, because in the word law of attraction is the word action. So you need to do every day something moving forward to the plan that is in place for you. Yeah. You cannot wait to the plan to happen, right? And then the third aspect was your environment, what we call the earth luck. Yeah. And it's interesting in the book, Napoleon Hill, Think Rich, Grow Rich, says at a certain point, location is everything. Yeah. And I remember talking to the late Bob Proctor, who was, of course, one of the greatest teachers on Think Rich, Grow Rich. He said, you know, location is everything, but it's also how the location looks like. And I said, and that is what Feng Shui is about. He said, a lot of people, let's say you want to start let's say a restaurant in the middle of the desert. Wrong place, right? But you better start that restaurant in a place where there's a lot of people. But even if that space doesn't look good, right, has a wrong vibe, you will has the wrong food, has the wrong, I would say, entertainment, or not enough friendliness. That all will affect you to go back to that restaurant or not. But also how it looks, how the vibe is. So the feng shui knowledge, I would say, was for the first time really experienced in China by shamans. I would say local shamans that would look like, where's the wind? Where do I place my harvest? Where do I place the house? Do I have enough sunshine coming in? There are some basic rules that even the farmers in my country would follow. They would actually, when there was farmland, they would build, or not build, but they would plant high trees towards the north because they want to protect the harvest from the cold winds from the north. They would
Mm,
put hedges to the south, to the east, because they didn't want that wind. But to the south and the west, they would make sure there was enough sunshine coming in.
mm,
Now, the same principles were used in original feng shui, what we call landscape feng shui. Yeah. Now, they didn't talk about, the plants or the trees. They would say, where are the hills? Yeah. Is there a hill in the north? Is there a hill in the east? No hills in the south or the west because the sun has to come in as much as possible. Right? So there's some really like practical principles that started with
mhm,
feng shui that I thought would just common sense, right? And then, interesting enough, from there it just unfolded that more and more they start seeing there were deeper information, the way water was running, if there was water close to you. They would then start seeing, once the compass was invented, that even the wind directions could be dedicated and found out with a compass. So I would say it took about a good 3,000 years before all the classical feng shui school, and I'm trained as a classical feng shui master, was found out. And literally, feng shui is really a system based on the five elements, what they're using in medicine, Chinese medicine, in acupuncture, but it's also really um, a mathematical formula, to be honest. Yeah.
mhm,
So they really went deep into that. Every degree has a different outcome.
mm,
Also, time wise, if you go into a home at a certain place, a certain time, you will actually have a different outcome. So they could calculate these things. Yeah. So
mm.
now it is really, if you do advanced feng shui, it's a lot of mathematics involved. Yeah.
Amazing. Before we talk about the courses that you have on your website, and I know you've already talked about your app, I want to hear about your very first vision board and how that unfolded, how that impacted your life in the early days. And yeah, I just think I love that. I loved hearing that story.
Yeah. So my first vision board was really a vision wall, right? I created a vision wall in my bedroom. And one of the things I put in was I wanted to travel. So I put a lot of images from travel, going to Paris, going to London, going to America, because my family did not travel. They were not financially well off enough to travel beyond their own country. So that was like the first thing. I wanted to like travel as much as I could. And I definitely have done more than 50 countries. So I'm definitely check. I did that one. Um, but also there was this interesting concept was that at that time I had a TV series that I was watching. It was called Daktari, and it was about a vet clinic in Africa, and I loved the female star in it because she was walking with the lion. It was a cross-eyed lion that was called Clarence, and I was like, my God, that's the model, a woman that can walk with lions, right? I thought I was the most brave and courageous woman I've ever seen on television. And so I put her and the lion on my vision wall. And so every time I was like, oh, one day I'm going to meet this woman. I was just like, because when I put a vision board up or a vision wall, I would talk to it. I would just look at it and visualize and close my eyes and daydream about it, right? That's the whole part, imagining it. And so fast forward, in I think it was 2005, I was living in San Diego by then and was speaking for a big charity event that was helping for funds for an African charity. And this man comes to me and he said, like, Marie, I really would like to introduce you to my wife. And And here is her book. And on the cover of the book was this this actress with the lion. And my 9 year old, because I was when I was watching it, start just crying, right? And I was like, oh my God, is this your wife? Like he said, yeah, she's been following you for years. She's a big fan, and we do your practice. And is she here? She said yes. I said, how is it possible? I never met her before. He said, well, we lived in Africa till 6 months ago, and literally I could not have met her before, and now we could. So we reconnected. She was quite ill at that time. We stayed very connected for a few months before she passed on. And it was so interesting because she was really not an actress. She was the handler of the animals,
Hmm.
but no actress wanted to walk with the lion. That's why they in that series she took over the role of the actress, right? And so it was just so beautiful. It took the universe quite some time, like almost 35 years, to get me to that point to meet her. But the whole point is the universe doesn't forget. God doesn't forget, right? When you put on your vision board. So I think that was like one of my sweetest stories about creating my vision board. Yeah.
Powerful, powerful. I know you have courses on your website on feng shui, manifesting, dowsing, and meditation.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about those and what might be best for some of our listeners.
Yeah. So we have these four pathways that I would say. So some people love to work with feng shui, and then it starts with the app, with the book, and then they can go and even go to a certification program that we have that people can become practitioners and really do this for themselves. You know, it could be that they're healers or coaches, or they just feel like this is a service they want to provide for other people. One of the things that I started understanding over the years that feng shui was not enough, that the original feng shui masters would also check out the dowsing. So dowsing is a practice to find out where there's water, like the dowsers would find the underground wells, but I really base it on an Egyptian system that they start looking for the frequencies, like the underground water. Now we can check out where electricity is coming in. We can also check out where the ley lines are. So we really can raise the vibration. So because original feng shui master did feng shui and dowsing. And so I'm probably the only feng shui master in the world that do both. Yeah. So, but some people just love the whole dowsing track just because they can raise the vibration. And we do specific acupuncture needles that we're using to really raise the vibration. And then I started as a spiritual teacher with the Inner Diamond meditation track. And so we always include meditation in feng shui and in dowsing to really make sure that you do this from the highest frequency possible, that you're not just doing it from an ego level, but really from a soul frequency. And so a lot of people follow the meditation track because they love my meditations. And then since the last few years, because of being part of Mind Valley, I've been considered one of the top manifestation teachers because it's like the new word for law of attraction right now amongst the young people. So we started having a manifestation club every month so people can really, manifest faster their dreams. So that's a whole other track that we have. And most of the time, people come in from one of these directions and then they jump to the other tracks and see what they love doing. So, yeah, these are like four tracks of studies that people can do with me.
Wonderful. MarieDiamond.com. We will link to that as well as all of your social media as well. One last question for you. If someone's listening today and they are kind of struggling in life
Yeah,
with, let's just say, a lack, right? Lack of something, lack of love,
yeah,
lack of energy, lack of financial abundance, lack of health.
mhm,
What advice or encouragement would you give them?
yeah. Well, I've been there. So I've been My first company went bankrupt. I have been homeless a couple of times when I was younger. So I know what it is to be in lack. Yeah, even if I already was awakened, right? So the first thing is you need to fill up yourself with gratitude. Right. So be grateful for the things you do have. And, perhaps you have a home, perhaps you have family, perhaps you have a job. Like, be grateful and express that every time, every day, and bless it. Right. And even bless already the things you don't have, but that are coming. Yeah. So fill your up with blessing and say that to people like, thank you. And I bless you for giving that to me. And even if sometimes you feel like, there's not a lot. Bless the universe. You have fresh air. You have the sun shining. So fill yourself up with all these blessings. Yeah. Because that is something I had to learn to really do to allow myself to be open to the blessings of the universe. The second thing is let go of things that do not longer work for you. Yeah. And so it could be that what is not working for you is that you are judging yourself, that you are blaming others for what is going on, that you are feeling guilty for the mistakes you have made, that is not working for you, right? So let that go and do that with forgiveness. Yeah. And so I always suggest to people, and it's part of the book, to write a forgiveness letter to yourself and to just say, like, I'm letting it all go now. And I write this forgiveness letter and I burn that letter up and I give it back to God. I'm like, you know what? That didn't work for me, but I let it go. And then to also start looking perhaps physically, there is things that you can let go of. Yeah, because in order to get more abundance coming in, you need to let go of things that are stagnant for you. Perhaps you have, too much clutter, because clutter creates low vibration. Perhaps there are clothes and shoes that you don't longer use anymore. Let it go. Perhaps you have to go to every closet and let go and give away. Be that generous soul to give away to charity. There's always people that have less than you. Yeah.
Mhm.
And if you don't have anything, then you have time. Yeah. So give some of your time. Perhaps there is somebody locally that needs some extra help, a neighbor or an organization, volunteer to them. So just be generous. If you don't have physical things to give your time. And so these are some basic principles that I've used over the years, that each time there was lack of abundance, lack of moving and flow, I would always go back and reuse these three principles.
Thank you, Marie. MarieDiamond.com. We'll link to that, of course, and encourage you to pick up her newest book, Your Home is a Vision Board. It's excellent. Marie, thank you so much for all the ways you have impacted the world. Are you
Thank you.
getting close to 500 million? Are you getting close?
Well, The Secret has reached more than 500 million people. We know
Yeah,
that.
there
Yeah.
you go.
So, but of course, we go for more because there's right now so much people in need. And with some practical, simple steps, sometimes you can really make a big shift in your life. And it doesn't mean that you need to, do the big things, but just practicing every day some small step forward.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marie. It's been great to be with you. Thanks for listening to the Awaken Magazine podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and our other conversations, would you mind taking a moment to leave a 5-star review and maybe even a comment on Spotify or Apple Podcasts? That's one of the ways that you can give back to the show and help us reach more people. And of course, feel free to share the episode with a friend. And if you're not already on our email list, we send out an inspiring email every Monday morning full of articles and interviews. Just head on over to awakenedmagazine.com and click subscribe and join for free. Our hope is that all the resources we share will help our world continue awakening to love.